How can you develop compelling content in your communication? How do you rise above the noise to get everyone's attention with your church's message? We'll talk about it today.
This is the definitive podcast for helping you plan, create, and execute dynamic worship experiences at your church. Useful, practical content in the areas of production, worship, communications, first impressions, and more. This is Making Sunday Happen.
Hey friends, welcome to the podcast. This week I'm chatting with Development Executive Laura Woodworth from Cooke Media Group in Burbank, California. Laura is a writer, producer, director. She's a multi-platform screenwriter for VR, film, TV, and new media. She's a member of the Alliance of Women Directors based in Los Angeles, California. She's an award-winning producer with experience in education in multiple aspects of production, including film, television, new media, and radio, including conception through development, pre-production, production, and post, and on into marketing and distribution. She's the author of Effective Writing for Ministry and Business and editor of multiple books and study guides. She's a developer and instructor of several college-level courses on communication. And today I'm talking with Laura about 4 keys to developing compelling content in your communication. So my interview with Laura was recorded live at the Church Facilities Expo in front of a live audience. So you're going to hear that. We'll take some questions from the audience as well. This is great for pastors and communicators. How do you share your message effectively? How can you communicate your message? What are some ways that you can make that more compelling? We'll dive in with Laura right after this. At 1230 Media, we are on mission with churches and ministries to help you visually communicate the gospel to your audience. We want you to see life change happen through salvation and discipleship at your church. One of the great churches that we serve is Church at the Crossing in Indiana. We are in the trenches with Pastor James Roberts, Tim Lucas, and the great team at their church. We've created dozens of custom visuals for Church at the Crossing, including sermon series graphics, sermon bumpers, and more. Their team knows that to reach the people they want to reach, their visuals matter, and yours do too. If you're a ministry leader with no creative team or your team is overloaded, we can help. You can learn more at 1230media.com/custom. That's 1230media.com/custom. Hey guys, I'm talking with Laura Woodworth. Laura, you're with Cooke Media Group. Tell us a little bit about your role there with Phil and Kathleen Cooke there at Cooke Media Group.
Yeah, very good. I'm a development executive for Cooke Media Group in Los Angeles, and so I'm helping develop things. It's a varied position, so I deal with communications, helped write the TBN award-winning series Inexplicable with Phil there, and so, yeah.
Now, are you new to the staff? How long have you been with them?
I've been with Phil and Kathleen for 5 years.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah, they're great friends, great people. They're in Hollywood, really, Christians in a very unique space. How has that been for you? Do you live in California with them, or are you remote?
We lived in California, lived in LA up until right before the pandemic hit. And so right now I am working remotely from the Midwest, and most of our team is working remotely. It works out well. LA shut down pretty hard and pretty fast. So yeah, it's a new age that we're living in.
Yes. All right. So you're doing a workshop here all about communication. Right above the noise is what it's called, 4 keys to developing compelling content in your communication. So you're talking to church communicators, screenwriters, things like that. So kind of give me an overview of your workshop.
Well, it's really based on the fact that the pandemic and the digital age that really churches were forced into, whether they wanted to be in it or not, it's made the competition for digital content very fierce, and it's put an increasing demand on church communications teams to develop content whether they're, writing, web content, blogs, social media, any of that.
Is that something that you feel like people are trained to do? Like, do they have enough knowledge and experience in church world, or do you think that they've kind of been thrown into the deep end a little bit and expected to do things that maybe they're not?
Kind of sink and swim, sink or swim.
Yeah, maybe a mixture. Yeah. I'm sure there's a mixture of both, but what do you think?
No, I think you're right. I mean, it's really great when a church can actively seek out the right people with the right qualifications and skills to fulfill those communications roles. But I think the reality of it is very few churches are in that position. And so a lot of times we're bringing in people or raising up people within our congregations to take those roles. So as far as training goes, I think it's a lot of on-the-job training.
Yeah. So what should they know? What are some keys to the new way of communication, especially in church world, that like, hey, you really should be proficient at these few things? Okay. Anything come to mind?
I think probably the biggest thing that people need to understand in the digital age is that we've got to optimize our content. Gone are the days where we can just, write a really nice little article and put it out there. We've got to optimize. We've got to be aware of the search engines and how to navigate that. And that's one of the key things that I do help churches with through Cooke Media Group, is optimizing their content, whether it's a YouTube description or, social media or whatever.
Right. So people have to find your content in order for it to be valuable.
Bingo. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk through that. So what are some major ways that people can find our content, whether that's Google, and we need to make sure that we have good SEO, or what things come to mind when, if I'm thinking of optimization, what are like top three I've got to be paying attention to?
I'm just going to give you a top one, okay?
Sure.
And that is simply that we've got to do our keyword research. And I think at the CFX conference, we've heard a lot about target audiences and knowing your audience, and I'm very, very big on that. And that you do need to start there, but then you've got to do the keyword research and find out what is your audience searching for. If you know what they're searching for, then you can become the solution. You can become the answer. And especially when we're talking church communication, we want to be that in the world. We want to be the solution. We want to be the answer. And I'm just going to tag on this. I think for me, especially as I watch what's going on in our culture, and especially in the U.S., more than ever, God's people have got to be strategic. We've got to understand this so that we are being found and our content is being read.
Do you think we're losing ground? Do you think we're not able to keep up with culture?
That's a loaded question. It really is. Here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing more and more people who want to write, more and more people who want to produce. And that's encouraging, because that's what needs to happen. And it's got to start even in the small things.
Yep.
And so I think right now the world is probably ahead of us, just because they've got an agenda too. You know, but the church is catching up.
Yeah.
How's that?
So I want to ask you this. I want to dive into your four key elements, and that is the skill, or just being good. I think of in Hollywood, where you guys at Cooke Media Group are folks like Jerry Bruckheimer, folks like Mark Burnett, and folks like that that lean more, that are more believers. More are in tune with the things of God, or at least lean a little bit more conservative, but people respect them because they're great. And I might be sharing names here that people don't know about, but Mark Burnett is a producer of Survivor and shows like that. Jerry Bruckheimer is a major movie producer, conservative guy. So those are just examples that I can think of guys that are just really good at their craft and have been able to kind of penetrate culture because of just their skill level. So how does that sit with you? What do you think about that?
I think they're people we can admire and look to, quite honestly, because they've done their homework.
Yeah.
You know, they've taken the gifts and callings that God placed in their lives, and they've done what they needed to do to hone their craft and become good at what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, and so they're well respected in Hollywood as well as, you know, in the secular world, and the Christian world. Yeah, that's important.
Good. All right, so let's dive into your 4 things. So about when it comes to communication, your number 1 is, what do I want to say? So walk me through that one.
Okay, so I've got 4 keys to develop compelling content, and it's really 4 keys that I use every time I write. And I learned this years ago. If I use these 4 keys, I can write quickly and I can write well. If I don't, then I'm banging my head against the wall. So the first key is, what do you want to say? So many times people start at that, you know, what do you want to write about? You know, it kind of goes back to the days when you were in middle school and your teachers would say, you know, tell me about your school vacation. And it took you hours to write about your school vacation. But if we swing it and say, what do I want to say? That's a really good starting point, because now you're thinking. And for church communications people, maybe they want to talk about the new discipleship class coming up. But it's like, okay, we want to talk about that, but what do you want to say about it? It's very key to think and just have that be your starting point. Good.
All right, so let's move to your number 2, and that is, who do you want to say it to?
Exactly. So while you're thinking, what do I want to say? Now you've got to think, who do I want to say it to? Who is my target audience? Who am I speaking to? And that's where we dive into the demographics. The people that we know are our audience, or the people that we know we want to be our audience. We want to gain their attention. I have a really good story of, I mean, this was way back in the early 2000s where I was writing web content, and I took the time to write an article and write about a blog about testimonies and great things that had happened at the church over the weekend. And one of the things that had happened was a single mom had come. She had a special needs child, and in our services, her special needs child was touched. I mean, a remarkable change in his countenance and how he was able to socially relate with people. So I wrote my article, but I knew that part of my audience was going to be other moms with special needs kids. And I did the optimization, I did my homework, and I wrote that article, and in a few weeks we had another mom at the door with her special needs kid. And he also was touched by the hand and the presence of God. And it's a powerful depiction of what can happen when we think through, what do I want to say and who do I want to say it to? Who do I want to reach with this?
So when we think through that, can sometimes my audience be way too broad, way too big? And then the flip side, can it be too narrow?
You've been talking to too many pastors. I want to reach everybody. And we do, but we really have to niche it down. We have to narrow our focus. And
I guess how focused do I need to be, I guess is what I'm asking.
You know, I think that's where the beauty of the digital age is. We can tailor our content differently for different audiences. So maybe our main goal is to reach millennials. We can write articles that are geared towards that, but we can also make sure we're not ignoring the rest of our demographic, which may be, you know, the parents of those millennials or their children. So it's good to narrow it down while keeping the focus broad enough that you're not excluding people that you know are drawn to your church or ministry.
Can I be caught in one of these two? Meaning, like, if I know who I want to say something to, can I realize I might not be the one that needs to say it? You know what I mean? Like, do I realize, somebody, if I'm talking to millennials, does it need to be me or does it need to be somebody else? Can somebody else reach this audience, or is it always me?
Do you mean as far as like a church team?
A church team, yeah,
okay,
whether that's your church communications team. Maybe I'm not the one that needs to write the copy on this particular section of the website or this postcard or this whatever blog. Maybe it needs to be somebody of a different age group, a different background, a different whatever. Do you come to that realization at all as you go through this?
Absolutely. And I think churches will be well served if they bring younger people on their teams. I mean, if they've got someone who is a millennial, bring in someone even younger, the 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are savvy and know how to interact with those age groups. So I think we do well when we bring varied voices to our team. I mean, there's got to be a gatekeeper, right. Somebody who's watching over the overall communication of a church so that it maintains the voice of the church and that ministry and vision of the church overall. But it's like if you were talking to a 5-year-old kid about God, you're going to talk to him differently than you would to a 54-year-old woman who just walked in the church door. So, yeah. Good point. All
right, so let's move to your number 3, and that is what medium am I writing in?
Yes, very good. And I think a lot of times churches are still in that realm where they think they can take print copy and just throw it on their website. Or they think they can take an Instagram post and cross-post it to Facebook. I see that a lot. And it just doesn't work. You've always got to be thinking of what medium am I writing this for? Is this for a print postcard that we're going to canvass the neighborhood with? Is it for the web? Is it for TikTok? Is it a script I'm writing for TikTok? Or is it for something that's going to go over on Instagram? We've got to think of the mediums as we're developing our content.
So give me some good practical. I know people sitting here and listening to this podcast might be thinking, okay, I don't know the difference between Facebook and Instagram, what I should do differently. So what are some places that I can go to learn about how I should write for different mediums, or what some things I should be thinking about?
Okay. I think people should just Google. You know what? There are so many resources that are out there. Social Media Examiner, Social Pilot. I mean, there are a ton of resources. And I'll be honest with you, it is, especially when we're talking social media and anything digital, it is always evolving. And so the learning curve is great. And even if I think, well, I know how to write this copy, I may hop on Google and do a quick search of what's current. What's current on Facebook, what's current on Instagram, and then make sure I'm tailoring my content accordingly.
Good. All right, let's hit on your last key. What is my goal or call to action, my CTA?
Yes, absolutely. What is my goal or call to action? You've got to know the end result. What are you trying to accomplish through this piece? And that's where I like to say that a cord should run through your writing, start to finish. Don't break the cord. If you break the cord and don't know where you're going with the piece, you're going to lose your audience along the way. So, and this applies really whether you're writing on the big scope of things, whether you're writing a book or a screenplay, or whether you're writing a blog or a social media post. What is my call to action on that Facebook post? What do I want people to do? Or it might even be, what do I want them to feel? What kind of engagement am I after?
So should I answer all 4 of these questions before I write my piece?
So what I do when I start writing, now if it's a social media post, I may not write this all down, but if it's a larger piece of writing, I'll write these 4 questions at the top of my page and really think them through. What do I want to say? Who do I want to say it to? What medium am I writing this in? And then what is my goal or call to action? And I do process that before I really start writing. Otherwise, it's brick wall.
Good. All right, how can people find you, keep up with Cooke Media Group?
Okay, they can visit cookemediagroup.com, and they'll find a lot of information there about what Cooke Media Group can do for churches and ministries and nonprofits. And then also I'm over at laurawoodworth.com, where I've got some free writing resources and can find out about my new book that's coming out.
What's it about?
It is a rewrite of a textbook that I wrote for a college course that I taught on writing. And so the new book is coming out through iDisciple. It's called Write Above the Noise, Start and Finish. The book, blog, or screenplay God has called you to write.
Awesome. All Well, as we leave today, any questions from you guys for Laura, for us? Awesome. Well, we'll hang around here. Laura, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Carl.
Hey guys, if you have not seen the new movie Left Behind, Rise of the Antichrist, it might be a good movie for you and your church members to check out. It is now available on home release wherever you get your movies. And I had the opportunity to bring Kevin Sorbo back to the show to talk to him about the movie on the second week of its theatrical run. And I want to share my entire interview with Kevin with you as we close today. So here is my chat with Kevin Sorbo on Left Behind, Rise of the Antichrist. Hey guys, today I welcome back Kevin Sorbo. Kevin is an actor, producer, director. His brand new movie, Left Behind, Rise of the Antichrist, is in theaters now. Kevin, welcome back, man. Thanks for hanging out.
It's good to be back. We had a great success last week when the movie came out. So here we are in the second week, and it's fantastic. And I gotta do brag about this because it cracks me up. We've been 97% approval rating through Rotten Tomatoes. You know how much that drives them crazy when movies like this do so well. So
yeah, absolutely, man. And so you guys are in you're in second week of it's a Fathom event. You guys are in second week. Hopefully it'll continue to gain momentum. Now, this film is a direct sequel to the Nicolas Cage film in 2014. Is that right?
Yeah, they started over in 2014. They had done the beginning books with Kirk Cameron back in 2000, 2001. But there's such a long break between them all, so they started fresh again and told that story of the rapture when it happened on that day. Nick Cage played the role that I'm playing now, the Rayford Steele role, the pilot role. And this is a sequel. This is 6 months later. It really is an action thriller, and it's a movie that anybody and everybody can see. It's not like just pointed particularly at one audience. And we have over 91% average attendance in 1,500 screens, so it was pretty exciting. And I know we had, I think 300 or 400 screens in Canada. I can't remember exact count.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And it was rewritten, right? So rewritten for today's culture. You're going to mention current things, right?
You know what? When they came to me in 2015 and said, we're going to do the next one with you, they sent me the script, and I really loved the script. And then, whatever, I got busy. The next 5 years, they got busy. So 2 years ago, when they finally said, okay, we're going to get going on this now, but we're going to do a rewrite of the script from page one. I went, no, don't change the script. The script's really good. But they brought it, and I got to tell you, I was wrong. They made such a great script. They brought it in today. They talk about a pandemic. They don't mention COVID. They talk about what the government, one world government, one currency for everybody. The rise of a very successful and powerful man that people look up to and admire. And it's really it was quite fascinating. When I sat in, I was in LA filming a movie last week. So I went Friday with 3 of the actors and a couple of the producers. I loved the audience reaction. I mean, they hit everything. They cried when it was the right time. They laughed. They reacted, talked to the screen. Nobody left during the credits. I mean, it was really cool to see the audience response. And I've heard this happen all across the country.
So obviously you and I are conservative. Does it push too much on the political? Do you guys kind of press into pandemic and stuff like that?
The message is certainly there. But, you've got people that represented both sides of the coin in the movie. And it's just you get to Buck, who's working at sort of like a CNN place. And he just had the point. Guys, why aren't we telling the truth? What are we sensationalizing everything? Why are we keeping people filled with fear to keep them under control? Because that's pretty much what our government's doing right now. And not only our government, governments around the world. So no, I think people can boo and hiss. I hope the naysayers go. I hope they go in there. And there was a guy. We had a great article in Variety that came out yesterday. It came out today, and the guy begrudgingly said, "Yeah, it's a really good movie." And out of Variety, I'll take that when it comes out of Hollywood. So
I know, right? Now, you directed this film, and you've directed the last kind of few of them lately. Do you like being behind the camera versus in front, or both, or what's your preference?
I like it. I mean, I did Light to Be Light that had high success. We got another one coming out called Miracle in East Texas. Got another one looks good to be directing this year, and I think we're doing a sequel to this sequel. I just got an email from Cloud 10 that Paul Lalonde and John Pattis and Jessica Parker up there to do another one. So I'm hoping we get that ready to go. I told him we shot up in Calgary, and I was like going, can we go where it's a little bit warmer next time? So he sent me, he goes, this is the beginning of the next one. Exterior, somewhere on a beach.
Somewhere hotter. Nice. Tell me about the cast on this one. You have yourself, obviously.
I hate to do this here. I got to turn this door needs to be closed.
Yeah, no problem.
Wicked stream of light hit me in the head right now.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, now
that was a good segue from the director. You're always in there changing the lights. Hang on, let me get in there for a second. All right, so I was going to ask you about cast. You have you and Neil McDonough and Corbin Burnson. Sam, your wife, is in it too. How'd the cast come together for you?
I know those guys, and I've worked with Corbin before. I did an episode of Psych that people keep telling me they love so much. Corbin played the father in that series, and Corbin and I have known each other for a long time, and Neil and I have known each other for years. And we said, when are we going to work together? So I called him up and said, dude, I got a great part in this you're going to love. We had Bailey Chase in there. We had Greg Perot, who's done a lot of body work, but he plays Buck. He plays he's kind of lead in this one. He's got a lot of stuff going on. He did a great job, and Sarah Fisher, who played my daughter in a sitcom, plays it again in this one. So I love the fact that in the books, my wife gets taken away. She's a believer. My son is taken away to heaven. He's a believer. They leave me with my 20-year-old college daughter, which I love, because I think if the rapture happened right now, 95% of college students would get left behind. So.
The liberal schools, you mean?
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I love that you got Neil in it. He's gotten some press lately for just his stance on not doing, making a firm stance on not doing sex scenes and not doing, and I just love that he's making a firm stance. Obviously you do the same. And so I'm glad that you guys finally had a chance to work together.
Don't you find it weird that they attack him for that? Who cares? So he doesn't want to do a kissing scene.
I know.
I mean, it's weird what they get offended about. I mean, these are the same people, whenever there's a school shooting, they come out, we got to get rid of guns. But they're the same people who do movies that killing 200 people with guns.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I thought I've heard you say that before, and I thought of the Brad Pitt, a Bullet Train was one recently that the violence in it was just incredible. And so I totally agree with you that it's so hypocritical.
I got to tell you, Neil sent me a script that he wrote with his directing buddy, and they want me to play his brother in it. And it's a pretty hardcore Yellowstone style Western set in the 1860s, but it's a Cain and Abel story. So it is a biblical story, but it ain't your mom's, Noah's Ark children's book. I mean, we're hoping to get this thing funded because I think it's a great story. And it stays to what the West was like back then, which I think I always call the internet the Wild West right now, and it certainly is. Mm-hmm. But I hope we can get this movie done because Neil is fantastic to work with.
Yeah, he's a great guy. All right, talk to pastors and church leaders. This podcast hits a lot of pastors, lots of church leaders. How is this film relevant for the church?
Because number one, I don't think a lot of pastors, from what I'm hearing from a lot of people through my website, sorbostudios.com, please go sign up, sorbostudios.com, tell me that the churches don't talk about this anymore. And, I've noticed since COVID, there's a lot of woke pastors out there. When I do a lot of speaking events, everything from Christian education to pro-life, I know there's always pastors in the audience, religious leaders. And I say, you guys need to remember, you work for God, not government. But you've seen all the stories of these pastors that are just, it's amazing to me. My pastor, he's fantastic. He said, when I first met him 14 years ago, he said to the congregation, I'm not afraid to work my congregation down to a manageable size by speaking the truth. And I love that. And I respect that. So you may know him, Pastor Rob McCoy. You probably know him. He does a lot of work with Charlie Kirk and that. So I love that people stand up like that. And we need pastors. We need churches to work together. I mean, they're not doing that. And we need these people to support these movies and tell their congregation to go to it, because I don't have $100 million advertising budget like they do for Pirates of the Caribbean or James Cameron's Avatar movies on these $300 million ones. I shoot $3 to $5 million movies. That's catering budget on those movies. So I need all the help I can get by word of mouth, and people to stop me all the time and say, please make more of these movies. Well, I'm making them, so please support them word of mouth.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that we noticed at our ministry during the pandemic coming out of it is those pastors who did make a stand, those churches that did make a stand and said, no, we're meeting, if you don't want to come, that's fine. If you do want to come, we're open. Those are the churches that are thriving. I'm not, maybe that's too broad, but as a general observation, those are the churches that are thriving right now. The churches that were shut down, scared, are not doing as well right now. They're really struggling. Are you seeing that as well?
Do that 15-day shutdown, fine. But then after that, open up the churches. I mean, you saw what the government did. This should show you how crazy our government is, that churches are not essential, but strip clubs and liquor stores are. I mean, isn't that amazing to you? Right. I mean, they don't talk about the high rise in suicide, child abuse, spousal abuse, craziness, insanity. I mean, it's just a really crazy world we're living in right now. And, we spend so much time worrying about this stupid cancel culture and woke thing and what pronouns we have. I don't know. I'm here to speak the truth, and I get attacked for that, but that's fine.
Yep. BLM riot's okay. Church service is not okay.
Yeah. Antifa, yes, we're against fascism. Yeah, you guys are the fascists, but let's just moving on.
All right. Tell me about some of the resources available. If I'm a pastor, I'm a church leader, I want to do a sermon series, I want to do discussion guide, things like that. Tell me about some of the resources on the website for the movie.
Well, actually, they should come to me at sorbostudios.com and have me come to speak at their church. I think I do a lot of speaking events, like I said. But, the writers behind this, Paul Lalonde, Cloud 10, they've had the rights to the books for 35 years. They're the ones who put this together and merged away from the book. They're actually surprised. Some people said, it's so great to see this movie that stuck so close to the book. He said, we're about 90% out of the book. He said, we moved away from it, but we got the best possible endorsement from Jerry Jenkins himself. He and Tim LaHaye were the writers. Tim passed away a few years back, but he said this is by far and away the best Left Behind movie they've ever made, and it's perfect for the times we live in right now. So people they can go to leftbehindmovie.com. There's all kinds of information on there about the movie and all the sources you mentioned. They talk about the screening. I mean the trailers in there, plus the zip code will show you what theater is showing in your neighborhood.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you're doing a Jerry Jenkins project. It's kind of full circle for you, because What If was directed by our friend Dallas Jenkins. Was that kind of your first kind of move into more of a faith films?
Oh, yeah, no question. I've known Dallas and his wife and their kids for a long time. Their kids roughly same age as mine. So when they were still living in LA before they moved to Chicago for years, and now they're down in Texas. But he sent me the script and I read it and I called him. I said, who's playing Pastor Ben in this movie, What If? And he said, well, this guy, that guy. And I knew all those guys. I said, no, I'm playing him. He goes, dude, I can't afford you. And I said, pay me SAG minimum. Pay me what, he goes, you're kidding. I said, no, I got to play this role. Well, I've shot 90 movies and it's in my top 3. It's better than God's Not Dead. And it's the same writers. Chuck and Corey both wrote it. They don't get mad at me for saying that because they don't disagree with me. What If is a better movie. I think they should re-release that right now because they didn't do a theatrical run with it. Did okay streaming, did okay DVD sales, but nobody knows about it. And it's a fantastic movie. Christy Swanson's in it, John Ratzenberger's in it. So that really started from me. And Jerry Jenkins was the one who funded it and exec produced it. And here it is full circle now doing this. Here's our biggest problem this week, though. The Chosen is screening this week as well.
So you're battling Dallas.
They got 3 years and 100 million people following them. So as wonderful as our movie is, and Dallas and I talked about this yesterday, and I said, we need to have my movie on first, and then they stick around for your movie. We need to make this a double header.
Double feature. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. What's on the horizon for you? What projects do you have lined up?
I shot 5 movies last year. I shot Miracle in East Texas, Reagan, and the movie Left Behind were shot back in 2021. Last year, I shot 5 movies. They'll all be out later this year or early next year, and I've got 5 other movies lined up. But the ones that are coming out, the Reagan movie and Miracle in East Texas will be in theaters around the fall, September. And then I've got 2 documentaries coming out. I was 3 weeks in Israel through archaeological digs. We followed the flow of the tabernacle and the Ark of the Covenant. That's called The Quest. That'll be out at Fathom event as well. And then I've got another one I did with Brent Miller and his company, Ingenuity Films. We had the #1 documentary 2 years ago called Before the Wrath. Fantastic documentary. This is the next one that I narrated as well, and it's called Eating with the Enemy. It's about the Last Supper, Eating with the Enemy, and I love that title.
Which one was the one with John Lennox? Was it that one?
Against the Tide, which I highly recommend as well. I shot with John. I just talked to him recently. His health is not so good, so let's pray for that. He's an amazing man.
Yeah,
we shot 3 weeks in Oxford and 2 weeks in Israel with him, and had an absolute blast.
Yeah,
we were walking down the street on the way to the sepulcher where the church was that's been built around where Jesus was crucified, and he was so upset seeing all these people selling trinkets and carvings of Jesus and stuff. And I said, but John, this proves that Jesus was a capitalist. This is a good thing. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I interviewed him when that film came out, and what an incredibly smart man. Just amazing.
Oh my God.
Guy.
Can I tell you though, it's being re-released.
Oh, Brent, that's great.
I brought it to Brent Miller and his company, Ingenuity Films, and they loved it. So they did a repackaging of it and a re-editing of it. Yeah. And they said, we're going to put this thing out there big time in the fall, right along with Eating with the Enemy. So I know people get a chance to see it. They'll see it now.
Good. Well, you did a great job with him, walking him around and touring with him. Great job.
Yeah, he's
brilliant. All right. For pastors and church leaders, the movie is also available for you to host and do a screening at your church starting February 24th. The website is leftbehindmovie.com. You can register there, host the movie at your church. Again, leftbehindmovie.com. Kevin, thanks so much for the time, man. Always a pleasure. Come back anytime, man.
Hope to see you at the next NRB or wherever we run into each other.
I know, man. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Right, take care.
The show notes for this episode are available now at makingsundayhappen.com.
Well, that is it for us this week. Next week, my pal Ben Stapley stops by. We'll be bantering back and forth, having a great time talking about using video in your worship experience. Right up our alley as it relates to 1230, helping you with your church visuals. It's my buddy Ben Stapley. That'll be next week on the show. We'll go out there and create some incredible worship experiences at your church this weekend. I'll catch you next week.
Making Sunday Happen is a production of the ministry of 1230 Media. For show notes, archive episodes, and more free resources for your church, visit makingsundayhappen.com.